Well, folks, welcome back. This is the Ego Actus reading series, and this time around, we're doing a new series called Women's Drama. This came when Joan saw that a lot of theaters are producing all-male playwrights this season. So this time for Ego Actus, we will be producing only full-length plays by women playwrights. And today I'm excited to introduce one of our playwrights whose story is going to be coming out on Monday, October 2025. This is Delulu by Sarah Congress. If you want to say hi, Sarah.
Hello, everyone.
I think we've got an exciting play on our hands here. So I am raring to go with all of my questions. I hope you're ready for me, Sarah.
Laura, I'm so ready for you.
Let's do this. Okay, so let's start with the title, right? It is called Delulu. That is sharp. It is contemporary. It is even almost comedic, right? And throughout the play, characters even bring the word up. So, at what point while you were writing this play, when did you realize that Delulu was the perfect word for your play?
It was delusional at first,
Love it already.
and then it evolved into Delulu to fit how the Gen Z generation, I believe it's a Gen Z word. Am I right, Laura?
I want to
Gen
hope so.
Z.
I was born in 97, so for a lot of people, that's the cusp. I have not used Delulu, but I know people who have used Delulu. So
You
maybe
just
it
used
counts.
it. You just used it like 8 times now.
I
So
did. Maybe I am part of the Gen Z crowd now. I can be one of the cool kids.
you are.
Ah, shucks.
It was just she is delusional, but our protagonist, but it's that the daughter who is our audience, it's geared towards Gen Z, that generation. It's geared towards the younger generation, and
Hmm.
that's uh that's how they would coin it. Delulu.
I love
Mom, you're
it.
being Delulu.
I love it. I think I have my nephews who are around 7, 8, and then a younger one who does not know what Delulu is yet. However, We, I have been called Delulu so many times by this point by my nephews. I I feel like it's gonna get
Oh.
somewhere stuck in my head. But the fact that I'm talking about it now means that I'm being very cool about it. So let's talk about your protagonist, right? Your protagonist is Dina. And without spoiling too much, she is a rather complex woman. And you don't really shy away from showing those sides of her, right? The good parts, the bad parts, the Delulu parts, let's say. How did you work out the balance, right? When you were writing this story that she didn't come off 100% innocent or 100% terrible.
So Dina is a human resources manager for Costco who lives down the shore, as we'd say. I'm from Asbury Park, New Jersey, so it's down the shore. I wrote Delulu because I was so annoyed with the Hollywood trend of older woman, younger man romances. So we have the Nicole Kidman, and we have the Anne Hathaway, The Idea of You, and I think it's Baby Girl. And I watched these movies and I was like, I don't know about you, Laura, if you've seen them. Have you seen those movies?
You know, I have to tell you, I haven't seen them, but I do know the clips, right? I've seen a few things
Yeah.
on YouTube, and I have definitely seen the trailer for Baby Girl, and I was very confused throughout the whole thing. So I'm ready to get your insight from this.
Yeah. So I was annoyed because it's like, oh, these are gorgeous. Anne Hathaway and Nicole Kidman in both their movies are drop dead gorgeous, don't look like they're in their 40s. Very successful women with an abundance of money who are still miserable in their daily lives because they are, in Nicole Kidman's sense, unsatisfied with her husband and their many houses, and in Anne Hathaway, she has this fantastic art gallery she owns in LA, but her husband divorced her for someone else. So she's so unhappy. And they have so much money and space, and their children are lovely, and there's just affluence. And I was like, I'm gonna write the messed up version of this where the woman gets the younger man, but she's a damaged woman, and it's more. I wrote it to be, what would the women in the locker room at the Workout World of Ocean County, New Jersey, how would it go down for them? So that's who I wrote it for.
Wow, talk about turning a story on its head. I think you bring up a good point, right? You have those stories, you have the older woman unsatisfied with her life, and she finds this sort of comfort or freedom with a younger man, and all of a sudden, the love they actually have is genuine. And sometimes it's comedic and sometimes it's a drama, but I've rarely seen stories where you kind of look at the reasons why this happens to begin with, and what happens if it goes into a very different direction. So
Yep.
I was reading your script ahead of time, and I'm not going to give spoilers, folks. You're going to have to see it when it's live. But it does go into a very interesting route. So let's also talk about this. And this is something that I don't know if your audience is going to know, but I think it's important to bring up. In your script, you start with this quote. Now I know what a ghost is. Unfinished business. That's what. Now, I don't know, folks. For me, that gives me shivers up my spine. I know that stuff is going to go down. I need to know, Sarah, why this quote? Why did it resonate and how did it resonate with you while you were writing Delulu?
My favorite horror movie is Crimson Peak by Guillermo del Toro.
A classic.
His first line in his film is, his protagonist says, "Ghosts are real. That much I know." So my take on that is Dina has a lot of trauma, like so many people do. And sometimes we shove trauma down our throats because society, culture, life is telling us to move on. But that trauma is a ghost, and it will find a way to finish that unfinished business.
Wow. Oh man. And I find it so interesting that you touch on the trauma. One, and I think a couple actually, not just one, but a couple of our plays deal with the trauma that a lot of women feel. And sometimes it's familial, and sometimes in this case, for example, it's relationships. What happens when a woman is in a relationship that is not good for her? And it does feel like a bit like a ghost, right? You can try to push it down as much as you can, maybe because you tell yourself or society tells you in some way, but ghosts don't really leave. So the quote really starts to make sense, right? It's unfinished business. And what does unfinished business do best? It comes up, usually in the worst ways. Now, I'm not going to spoil, I'm not going to do it, but I'm trying to see if folks can start getting the hype of what direction we're going here. So, I want to take a step back, right? Let's look at the big picture. And this is a question that I plan to ask all of the playwrights who are part of the Ego Actus women's drama series. So, Joan Kane, who runs Ego Actus with Bruce, recently saw that this season we're pretty male dominated, not really great for women playwrights right now. And so she took the decision to create a whole series of readings where all of the full-length plays are going to be done by women playwrights. I'm really curious, Sarah, in your opinion, right, in your experience, what has it been like being a female playwright in the theater world and especially today?
I just want to touch briefly on how serendipitous it was that I met Joan and Bruce, if that's okay.
No, please go for it.
I met them June 27th. I had a show at Tada Theater that John Patrick Shanley also had a show in. It was the Gilded Age Cage Nylon Fusion Festival. And
Mm.
a really funny thing about that is the festival producer, who's wonderful, forgot to email me that my play had been selected. So I found out like 10 days before the event.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and it was like really lovely. And I had this play, Last Sunrise, directed by Janet Bentley. And I was in the lobby waiting for the show to start. and this man comes up to me and says, "Hi, I'm Bruce. You're the only person I don't know in this lobby." And I met Bruce and Joan, and they saw my show Last Sunrise. And then I got an email from them just saying they really love Last Sunrise, and they explained about this reading series and would I like to be a part. So it was very serendipitous.
Talk about it. I think it's incredible, right? And it's great that Bruce came up to you and gave you this kind of welcoming. And I'm so glad that you're here
So
and being part of the
welcoming.
series.
They are
Um,
such warm, welcoming, smart, fantastic people.
they are. They really are. And it's great that they're doing this kind of series. I'm not a playwright myself, right? But I've done some directing, and it is really easy to feel a little overwhelmed in this kind of space that is starting to feel very male dominated. And I know that people can be welcoming. So it's even more validating when you see people like Joan and Bruce at Ego Actus, who willingly and readily present this kind of space for female playwrights to show off their talents and show their stories. And the stories are multifaceted, and they include the connections that people make with one another. It deals with their traumas. And this one in particular, Delulu deals with such interesting topics. And I fully encourage everyone, if you can, please go watch Delulu. It goes live Monday, October 20th at 7 p.m. And Delulu, like all the plays in the series, are going to be presented for free at the Episcopal Actors Guild. That's going to be Mondays in October and November of 2025. So it is free. It's presented entirely out of pocket, but we are eternally grateful for any support. So donations can be made in cash or checks when you make it there at the reading, or you can go to the Give Butter campaign, which is available on egoactus.com. Sarah, before we finish up, do you want to say anything else? Maybe a foreshadowing or a mini spoiler or two about Delulu? And you don't have to if you want to keep it totally secret.
The truth is that Delulu is a comedy. And I would say it's funny, I didn't answer your question about being a female playwright. I really consider myself more of a comic writer, and I find that it's fun to meet people like Bruce and Joan who respond to the tone of your writing. Um, I think I think we're all just people. I don't really see things in that way. And it's really exciting to have such champions like Bruce and Joan say, this play's funny, this play's good, let's do it. So at the end of the day, let's all just be nice to each other. If you're female, if you're male, whatever, what have you. Let's smile to each other. Let's be nice. Let's go in a lobby and say, hey, I don't know who you are. Who are you? It's a nice thing.
These are great words of wisdom, and I'm gonna be carrying them. And folks, I hope whoever's listening is also going to be carrying this. Sarah, thank you so much. Good luck with Delulu. I can promise you, you are not Delulu for being part of this series. We are thrilled to have you on board. Thank you so much
Thank
for taking
you.
part in this podcast.
Thank you, Laura. Have a wonderful rest of your night.
You too.